Without doubt, the most commonly asked question that we receive from young people and students is, what is the best way to get a job? Now, you may be wondering why they're asking you that question, mate. Grey hair, wisdom, but it's probably not that. It's more likely that we run a platform called Studium that is designed to link employers to young people and students based on their skills and attributes. And in this ever competitive labour market where record number of people are out looking for work, particularly young people and students, there's never been a better time to listen in today and get some tips and tricks about getting your foot in the front door. I'm Stu from Studium, and we set out to build a platform that allowed students to get deeper insights into both themselves, industry, and employers. We know that it's really hard to find a job, and we know that it's really confusing and frustrating and full of misdirections and a lack of information to even help you get better at the application process. So part of our process is taking away applications altogether. But what we really encourage young people to do is to find opportunities in their field of study, their area of interest, or the space that gives them passion. Landing some sort of work, experience, some time spent in your area is always going to put you in better stead than the person who's crushing video games or really focused on just purely the academics. It's that combination of both that's going to put you in good stead with an employer. Having said that, it's still not easy to fire off resumes and do that type of thing and get yourself your first job. So today, we really want to step you through a couple of methods, and in particular one method, that will probably put you ahead of your peers and your competitors. So when I'm asked by people what's the best way to get a job, the advice that I most often give is get yourself an internship. But there's a couple of things you need to know about internships, or a couple of things you need to weigh up. Number one, internships are most often unpaid, unfortunately. To be honest, for an employer, an internship is a great way to try before you buy, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. The other thing you need to think about with an unpaid internship is, can you sustain yourself? So most unpaid internships can only run for about 100 to 150 hours, so you've got to be mindful of that. But contributing to that employer and being unpaid, how is that going to impact the rest of your life? Are you giving up a part-time job where you're being paid? Is it impacting your studies and those types of things? So that's certainly something you need to think about. If you're lucky enough to land a paid internship, that's a massive bonus, and they are relatively uncommon. Typically, the bigger employers will do paid internships. The thing that most universities do now, particularly in Western Australia, is give you credit if you're able to land an internship. And most of them have programs where they'll either help you find an internship, or if you found one yourself, you can wheel into that office and they will attribute credit to your course weighting. So really smart move, and certainly if you can get something for doing something that's going to benefit your career, it's going to help you graduate, I'd encourage you to do that quick smart. So why an internship? Well, I mentioned just a second ago, try before you buy. Now, in this current economic climate where there are pandemic issues going on, there's labour shortages going on, if you were to get in touch with an employer and say, hey, I'm happy to come in and work for free, you'd be hard pressed to find many employers who say, no, I don't want free labour. Now, there are challenges that come with an internship, and one of those is, well, hang on, I've never managed a person or an internship. What structure, what do I need to do? How do I make that work? And that's not for today's conversation. But the internship is very much an opportunity for you to get inside a business. It's low risk to the employer. It's high upside to you as the young person and student, because you're inside a business, you can see what's going on. And to be very honest with you, it's an opportunity for both the employer to try before they buy, but also for you as the young person or student to try before you buy as well. You're not obligated to take the job there, they're not obligated to hire you, but it's a way to test each other out and see whether or not It's an environment you want to work in and you want to be in. And for the employer, hang on, is this a young person or a student that I'm ready to roll the dice on because I've seen what they can do? And by the way, I didn't have to pay for that. So I tell people that an internship is an invaluable experience if you're able to land a good one. So what we need to talk about is, how do you land a good one? The internship's the way to go. The next challenge is, how do you get one? Well, there's a couple of ways to do it. Now, the way that most people do it is the little technique that I call the easy, hard way. The easy part is to grab your resume, find a job advertised somewhere, or fire it off to a really big employer and hope for the best. The hard part of that, of course, is that resume that you probably just copied and pasted from your last application has now gone into a pot with potentially tens, hundreds, and most likely thousands of other people exactly like you who've just sent it off and hoped for the best. There's a very strong chance that someone's sitting at the other end of that email who's got 1,000 resumes that they need to sit and consider, and they are literally picking up your resume and going, next. And that's it. You've just lost your internship. So, if you're not up for hard work, keep trying with the easy, hard method. It's the proven way to do it, and the strike rate's particularly low. Now it's time to get serious. We're going to talk about the hard, easy way to get an internship. Now, when you often say to young people and students, where do you want to do an internship? They are more than likely to rattle off the 5 biggest employers in their industry or their field of study. And that's well and good, but you are probably in the same pot with everybody else who just happens to know those big companies. In order to be noticed, you're going to have to get radical here. So you need to find some organizations that are a little bit further down the totem pole. Let's call them tier 2 or tier 3 companies. Now, the reason for that is there's a pretty strong chance that you'll be able to get past administrators or HR people and get to decision makers quicker and easier. The other thing we're going to do, and this is by far the hardest part, is we're going to cold call for the internship. Now, if you're like me, early in my career, the notion of cold calling was the most terrifying thing on earth. And what got me over that hump was a piece of advice that I got from a manager and a mentor who said to me, Stuart, they have forgotten about you the second they hang up the phone. So you are on the phone and you're flummoxed and you're nervous and you're trying to spit your best game. It'll all be forgotten the minute they hang up the phone. So try and remember that when you're putting in this call. Now, before you get to the cold call, it is critical you do some homework. So you've identified companies in that tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 range. And the reason that you're doing that is they're going to likely be smaller. The notion of free labor or very cheap labor is going to be very, very appealing to them. And because they're smaller, they probably have, well, they will have fewer people doing the work. So anybody who can come in and lend a hand is going to make a massive difference. And that's what's going to make you stand out. So first piece of homework is identifying those companies that sit further down the totem pole. The next piece of homework is, who are you going to put the call into? So once you've identified the person that you probably need to speak to, it's really critical that you get your story straight. And by that I mean, you're not going to call and say, hey, can I have an internship? You need a reason for this person to want to have a coffee with you. So typically what I encourage young people and students to say is, hi, so-and-so, I am studying in this particular area. I see you've studied that. I see your what your organization's doing. I'd really appreciate the opportunity to buy you a coffee and pick your brain on how you got into the career and into the field that you're in at the moment. And hopefully you can shed some light on things that I could do to help improve my standing within the field. Most people love talking about themselves, and very few people will say no to a student who's seeking advice or guidance. So play that card. Now, when you make this phone call, you need to understand your key mission is to get a meeting. You do not want to be on the phone for 30 minutes chatting to this person. You want to book a meeting. So, couple of things. When you call through, you're probably going to go to the front desk of the business, ask for the person by their name. Why is that? A lot of people sitting on the front desk may just assume that you're a friend or a child or a peer and put you straight through, not question you, and that is a massive win, and that's when you need to thank the spirits above. If the person on the front desk or reception or whoever answers the phone says, well, what is it regarding? That's when you want to go back to your spiel about being a student and looking to pick their brain. Once again, you're asking for a favor. You're not trying to sell them something or anything like that. You're asking for some insight. And I'd be very surprised if you didn't get put through. When you are put through to that manager, use your spiel. I'm looking to pick your brain. I'm looking to study in the space that you are now working in, and get a meeting squared away. Now, another key, book the meeting at least 2 weeks out. Why is that? Well, number one, it's pretty rude to assume you can just show up at someone's work the next day for a coffee. You've got to assume people have got busy schedules and they just couldn't fit you in the next day. But 2 weeks out is far enough for them just to whack it in their calendar and forget about it. And I guarantee you'll show up in 2 weeks' time and they'll be scrambling when the person at the front desk says, oh, such and such is here to meet with you. They'll be like, oh, I forgot all about it. But if it's in their diary 2 weeks from now, it's unintrusive. They don't really have to think about it. Very few people are plugged, fully booked 2 weeks in advance. So that means you're in. Now's the time to shine. So you've got your meeting. Now you've got to hit a home run. So once again, do your homework, understand the business, understand what it is that they do, understand the projects they've got coming up, understand the cool things that they've done, understand the person that you're going to see. If you can get some history on them, if you understand what it is they've done in their career, if you can get someone you know who knows them to give you some insight, that's a massive win. The next thing you need to do when you go for this coffee is make sure you dress well. Make sure you give a great handshake, make sure you're presentable, make sure you listen. The key to getting a job, particularly in interviews, is to get the interviewer to talk more than you do. It's a well-known fact that if someone is talking about themselves, they tend to leave that interaction thinking more favorably about the interaction. They've talked on something they know, they've talked about something they're passionate about, which is themselves. Which is playing into what you're after, is them talking and them feeling good about this interaction. You need to listen, and you need to have some pre-prepared questions to ask of the person. The last question you want to ask is, can I have a job? What you want to do is talk about where you're looking to go in your career, and maybe subtly suggest that, I'd love to do an internship here. I think I can do them through university, unpaid, for credit, those types of things. And as I said to you earlier, most people, the offer of free labour from a young person who's taken the time to reach out and speak to them, it's pretty hard to turn that down. It's really important that you do a lot of listening and you take on board the information this person is giving to you, and it's really important to set the tone by being well presented and considered in what you're doing. The internship is the best way to go. It's the least intrusive way to get inside an organisation. It's not through a formal job application. You are taking charge of your destiny and you're going out of your way to create an opportunity for yourself. Go get it.